Okay, welcome to Phoenix Props Mandalorian Tanto assembly. You get a little package like this. You're gonna open it up. You're gonna get an internal bag, and you're gonna get a little baggie with some PU leather straps. Inside the smallest bag, you're gonna get this nice little Tanto blade. Pretty fancy looking little thing. Very dangerous. If in fact it were a real weapon, which it is not, or a tool. It is unsharpened. However, it has been hardened. It's mild steel that's been hardened, so it could hold an edge if you'd like it to, but it's not really meant to. So all one piece, made out of steel. The bottom hand here, the handle part is powder coated. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get this thing wrapped a little bit. So in your bag, you're going to have multiple strips of this this piece. So you're going to take a long one. Now, one long one will do both sides, the top and the bottom. The short one probably can do the top and the bottom as well, but I haven't tested that. So you're given a few extra pieces just in case you want to do it differently or you make a mistake. Because I know I've had to wrap mine a few times just to kind of practice on how it goes. So I'll show you what we do here. So this PU leather is backed with a 3M sticky. It sticks very well to the powder coating as it is. You don't have to do any special roughing up or anything. And it's a pretty straightforward deal here. We're basically going to, see, we're going to push it under. It fits in there just right. And what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of get an idea of how this should wrap, right? Because you want to know what you're going to do prior to actually doing it. So I'll show you what you're going to be looking for. So now if you were just to put it in like this, you could make a straight wrap, pretty straightforward, and then start to wrap it, with the tape off, of course. And then, but you end up with this kind of triangle here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut ourselves our own little triangle. So I like to get a little wood block. I got me a fresh razor blade because sharper is better. Now you always got to kind of get your brains on which side you're going to cut, which side of the piece. So the way I'm going to wrap it like this. And so I want to cut my slice when it comes around like so. So what you want it to do, because it's got a sticky back on it, you want it to be able to fold under like this. And then you want a little bit excess that you can tuck inside this crease to keep it from coming up again. So in order to do this, we are going to cut an angle from this side. Now you can see I've given it a little bit of an overlap here. And we're going to place it straight. And whatever's hanging over is the part that you want to cut off. So we're going to cut, let me take one more look at that. Get it right the first time. We're going to cut our angle like that. Okay, so I got my finger on it here. Now what you want to do is there is an actual way to measure this, but I've found that I can kind of get a general idea. So you find your slice, use your blade, just kind of push down. And if you have a nice sharp blade, you can just push straight down. End up with a nice clean cut. Now leave this side uncut for the moment, because if you cut this now, you're going to end up cutting too much or too little, and you're not going to have enough to finish the job. So what I like to do is I like to thread it under, like I did before. Only this time, we're going to pull it a bit through, and we're going to pull some of this sticky off. You want to try to keep your fingers from getting involved in the sticky as well, because that's going to make it harder for it to stick on the piece. Just peel this back a little bit. We'll peel it back as we go. I'm going to cut a little bit off to give me some room to work with here. Okay. So now I'm going to pull this back a bit and keep this edge along the edge of the piece. See? So we get a nice clean edge there. And now you're going to end up with a little tail here. Very simple. You simply just take some sort of sharp, so it doesn't have to be sharp, but some sort of pointy, thin object. And you're going to want to tuck it under a little bit. We'll tuck it in a little bit better once we get a few more wraps on here. So now, pull this back a little bit. Wrap this around. Now don't pull it tight yet until we get it in position, so we don't have to stick it and unstick it a few times. Pull your sticky. You can pull your sticky through. Again, I suggest that you do not pull this whole sticky off, because then the whole sticky is exposed, and you're going to end up touching it everywhere and lowering its power, sticking power. So use fingernails and very gentle touches. Okay, so we're going to pull this into position. Now, if you want to, you can do it many different ways. This is just one single way you can do it. The most basic way. Okay, now I got this first wrap done. Now I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to continue pushing this under. Careful not to cut it. So what happens is, now that you got that tucked under, it's going to stick there. You're not going to see it, and it's not going to come loose. So you got a nice even edge there that's not going to pop up. So we just make another loop. Do a little bit of pull back on the sticky sticks or the paper. Get it out of the way. And we're going to slowly pull into position while keeping the line of the PU nice and aligned with the other parts. Give it a little tug to get the sticky to settle, and rinse and repeat, one after the other, following that line. And cut that excess back as you go. Now, I don't want my pieces to overlap, keeping them exactly next to each other, so I'm making sure to guide that as I stick it down. And again. You can see this blade is a lot duller than my main blade. And again. Then one more time will get us to the very edge of our wrap. Now you'll see as this is aligned, you end up with a matching little corner like we did last time. So before you cut this, you want to make sure you give a little fold and see where it needs to land. So my piece, my cut, should end right about here in order to allow plenty to overlap. So you just mark where you want to go. And we're just going to do a little bit of a straight cut to start with, just to get the first piece done. Now, because we're doing it on the other side, or we're on the other side, if you fold this over just a little bit, you'll see where you need to cut. So your cut needs to start about right here and needs to end about right here. Okay. Push this over. We'll get our blade. Let's get this aligned again. Starting here. Working our way down. Something like that. Nice clean cut. If you got any that's not cut because of the way it's shaped, just come back over here and just gently cut that back. If you got any leftover peel that. Now you'll see your cut follows that nice little line. Tuck it under like before. This time, if you tuck it under, and it's a little excessive on the other side, it's easy enough to cut it from the other side as it pokes through. And for me, the way I'm tucking it under, it won't poke through, it's just all bunched underneath. Now you end up with a nice wrap on there. You can clean up any lines if you want by pressing. Now you're left with this nice little stick. And that's enough to wrap this piece. So we're going to do the same thing as we did before. One thing to keep in mind here is you have a little angle on the end here. So you're going to want to cut it in such a way that you can follow that angle from the beginning. Otherwise you're going to be missing some of your wrap. Let's just see if I did this right. Not quite enough. Let's try it from the other angle, see how I get. Okay. I need a much steeper angle than I got to provide a longer lead up, like that. Make sure you're doing this before you pull the sticky back off in order to understand where your piece needs to actually sit. Okay, that looks much better than before. Okay, that's gonna look good. Pull this sticky off. About halfway. tuck this under. And follow this angled line all the way over. Tuck your excess underneath. And now you got your first wrap. Just take the rest of it off for the second. Make sure my wrap aligns well. Bring it around, 1, 2. It looks like I cut a little bit short. So if you do that, all you got to do, pull another piece off of there and then cut it and then wrap it in. Same as you did before. I can repair this by pulling a little bit tighter, get a little bit of excess back here, tucking this under, and there you go. Now you got your basic wrap tanto.